The goal for this lesson is to look at some special multiplication of binomials and seeing patterns that happened. But to quickly warm up here, I want to show using algebra that these three quadratic functions or relationships represent the exact same parabola. So I'm trying to make a link between what we did in our previous lesson along with what we have done in our previous unit. All right, so let's take a look at this very first parabola. I'm just going to rewrite that here. Y equals 2 bracket x take away 6 squared minus 8. This is that vertex form of the parabola. It also tells us our transformations. This parabola has a vertex at positive 6, negative 8. It opens up, skinnier than y equals x squared. So what I'm going to do with this is use our algebra skills from last unit or last lesson and be nice and write that x minus 6 out twice, and then we're going to expand and simplify. So I'm going to multiply the x by the binomials together first. So x by the x, we get x squared. X times minus 6 would be minus 6x. Minus 6 times x is another minus 6x. Minus 6 times minus 6 is plus 36. And then we still have the minus 8 on the end. I'm going to collect those like terms in the bracket. So that's going to give me a minus 12x. Putting those two minus 6x's together. And then we still have the minus 8 on the end of this. I'm going to multiply the 2 through the bracket. 2x squared minus 24x. And then 2 36's is 72. And we've got the minus 8 on the end of that, and then I can collect those like terms. I should have left another line or two here. Minus 24x. Put the 72 with the minus 8. That's going to take us down to plus 64. All right, so if I look at that, well, what do you know? There it is right there. So I know that the first and the last are identical to each other. The other one we want to check is the form y equals 2 bracket x minus 4x minus 8. Now remember, that one's the factored form, and that one tells us the x-intercepts for this parabola. So I know the parabola is going to cross the x-axis at positive 4 and at positive 8. So we know quite a bit about this parabola in terms of what the graph looks like. I'm going to multiply the x by the x and get x squared. So I'm hopping through the bracket here. The x times the minus 8 would be minus 8x. The minus 4 times the x would be minus 4x. And the minus 4 times the minus 8 would be a plus 32. And collecting like terms, I'm going to have an x squared minus 12x and a plus 32. I've just put together the minus 8x and the minus 4, and then hop that 2 through the bracket. We're going to get minus 2x minus 24x, and then plus 2 32's is 64. So when we write each of these in what we call the standard form, the expanded and simplified form, you can see they are degree 2's. They all have x squareds in them, and they all represent the exact same parabola. All right, so that was just a quick warm-up question. Now, remember, if something is squared, then we, be nice, write it out twice. We multiply it by itself. So we're just multiplying the binomial by itself. So when we have this, and I had an equal sign there, I should put the equal sign underneath. We're going to be nice, write this x plus 1 out twice. X plus 1 times x plus 1, the x multiplies the x plus 1, we're going to get an x squared plus x. So that came from x squared times the plus 1. The plus 1 has to now multiply both of these, plus x and a plus 1 out of that. That's going to give us x squared plus 2x's, an x plus an x is 2x's, plus 1. Okay, be nice, write this out twice. We've got 2x plus 1 times 2x plus 1. That 2x has to multiply both the 2x and the plus 1. That's going to give us 4x squared plus 2x. and then the plus 1 has to multiply the 2x and the plus 1. We're going to get a plus 2x and a plus 1 from that. Collecting like terms, we get 4x squared plus 4x plus 1. And the last one, again, be nice, write that out twice. It's not just as simple as just squaring the first thing and squaring the last thing. That's not what's happening here. You can see there's more than 2 terms in our answers. So the 3x multiplies the 3x and then multiplies the plus 4y. That's going to give us 9x squared plus 12xy, and then the plus 4y has to multiply both of these. That's going to give us another plus 12xy, and then we have a plus 16y squared. And combining like terms now, we get 9x squared plus 24xy plus 16y squared. Okay, now do we notice any patterns happening here to go from the beginning to the final answer? Now, I did mention that it's not just as simple as squaring the first term and squaring the last term in our binomial. I mean, x squared would give us x squared. The plus 1 squared would give us a plus 1, but you notice we're getting this extra 2x in the middle. Okay, so we have a 2x here. We're squaring that. That gives us 4x squared. We square the last. 1 squared is 1. We've got this extra plus 4x happening in the middle. Square the first. On our last example here, 3x all squared is 9x squared. Square the last, 4y is our 16y squared. We have this extra piece here. Now, to get those middle things, they came from 2 similar things. So the plus 2x came from an x and an x. In the second example, the plus 4x came from a plus 2x and a plus 2x. The plus 24xy came from plus 12xy plus 12xy. The 12xy really comes from multiplying the 2 terms in the brackets together. So our 3x times our plus 4y, if I multiply those together, that gives us a 12xy. If we double it, we get our 24xy. Our 2x times our plus 1 gives us 2x. We got 2 of those 2x's. If we double 2x, we get 4x. And likewise, our x plus our 1 multiplied together is just a 1x. If I double that, we get our 2x here. So those are patterns you should notice. So our general rule, when we square a binomial, a plus b, we end up with squaring the first. If we take the product of these two, we're going to get an AB, but then we had to multiply that by 2. We had to double it. And then we square the last. So square the first, twice the product, or double the product, square the last. Square the first, double the product, square the last. Square the first, double the product, square the last. Square the first, double the product, square the last. All right, let's see what's going to happen if we change that. Instead of a plus in between, we change it to a minus in between. So be nice, write these out twice, expand them and simplify, and see if you can see any patterns to those. All right, and with the magic of technology, I now have my answers done for the 3 examples here. You can check your work with mine. What you should notice is that, again, we're squaring the first terms. Square the first terms, they give us the first term of our answer. If we square our last terms, we get the last term of our answers. And when we square negatives, it gives us a positive. And then again, if we take the product of the middles, or of the 2 terms we have here, x times minus 1 would be minus 1x. We had that happening twice, so we double that. We have our 3x and our minus 4. Multiply those together, we get minus 12x. If I double that, we get minus 24x. Multiply these together, we're going to get a minus 15xy, which is what we had happening twice. Double it, we get minus 30xy. So we have a similar pattern happening. So on our next page, we are going to put our general rule for that. But I'm going to do that on the next video.